It's late summer 1645 and Edinburgh has no idea it's living through two horrors at once. Within 6 months, the plague will kill a quarter of the city, and before the year ends, dozens of women will burn as witches. But right now, on this gray August morning, the Royal Mile still hums with merchants and gossip, unaware that fear is about to consume reason itself. You're standing at the Netherbow Port, the eastern gate into the old town, watching a woman being dragged toward the Talbot prison. Her hands are bound, her face is bruised. The crowd follows at a distance, murmuring the word that's becoming more common each week, witch. No one intervenes, no one questions. Fear has made accusation the same as proof. The air smells like peat smoke and the rot of open sewers running down the middle of every close. Church bells ring from St. Giles, marking the hour. You can hear a child crying somewhere in the tenements above, the sound swallowed by the narrow stone walls that block out most of the sky. This is a city at war with itself. The Covenanters have just defeated Montrose's royalist army at Philiphaugh. The English Civil War bleeds into Scotland. Soldiers return carrying stories of victory and carrying plague in their clothes and their breath in the fleas nesting in the seams of their uniforms. No one knows that yet, they will soon. You're standing at the Lawn Market, halfway up the Royal Mile where merchants sell cloth, butter, and salted fish. The cobblestones are slick with mud and waste. The smell is immediate: animal dung, wood smoke, the sour tang of unwashed bodies pressed together in a space too small for this many people. A merchant shouts prices from behind his stall. Butter sells for 8 shillings a pound, twice what it cost last year. The war has choked the trade routes. Farmers hoard grain, the poor eat oats and kale, nothing more. A laborer earns maybe 10 pence a day if he's lucky, most aren't. You notice a woman at the edge of the crowd, standing too still, watching too closely. Her clothes are ragged, her hair is uncovered, an offense to propriety, a sign of moral failure in the eyes of the Kirk. Whispers follow her, someone spits as she passes. Witch, they mutter, she doesn't look up, she's learned not to. This is how it starts, not with evidence, not with crime, with suspicion, with fear. The plague hasn't arrived yet, but the terror of it already has. People look for someone to blame. The Kirk tells them Satan walks among them, disguised as neighbors, as midwives, as old women who live alone. The Privy Council has authorized witch commissions across Scotland. Torture is legal. Confession is inevitable. Somewhere to the south in the Grassmarket, a pyre is being built. Time to move downhill. You walk east along the high street past the towering tenements that rise 6-7 stories into the gray sky. Families live stacked atop one another in single rooms, sharing walls so thin you can hear every argument, every cough, every prayer. You're now standing outside the Talbot, Edinburgh's prison and courthouse combined. The building is stone, dark, oppressive. You can hear screaming from inside, muffled, distant, but unmistakable. A woman is being questioned. The methods are legal: sleep deprivation, thumbscrews, the branks, an iron mask that crushes the tongue. She will confess. They all confess eventually. The crowd outside is larger now. They've come to watch justice, or what passes for it. A bailiff reads charges aloud: consorting with the devil, cursing a neighbor's cow to death, causing a child to fall ill through maleficium. No evidence is required beyond testimony, often from a single accuser, often extracted under threat. You notice something in the faces around you, not anger, not righteousness, just exhaustion. These people are tired of war, tired of hunger, tired of uncertainty. The witch trials give them something tangible to fear, something they can control by identifying and eliminating. It's easier to burn a woman than to end a war. A minister from the Kirk stands nearby, nodding as the charges are read. He believes every word, so do most of the people here. In 1645, witchcraft isn't superstition, it's theology, it's law, it's survival. You're now inside St. Giles, the great cathedral at the heart of Edinburgh. The interior is cold even in summer. Light filters weakly through the narrow windows, casting long shadows across the stone floor. The smell is incense and damp wool. A sermon is underway. The minister's voice echoes off the vaulted ceiling, harsh and unforgiving. He speaks of sin, of God's wrath, of the enemies within. Satan has sent his agents among us, he says. They wear the faces of women, they corrupt the faithful, they bring plague and pestilence as punishment for our tolerance of evil. You notice how the congregation listens, not with devotion but with dread. This is the Calvinist Kirk at its most powerful. The Scottish Reformation has stripped the churches of color, of music, of anything that might distract from the word. What remains is fear, discipline, and the absolute certainty that most people are damned. There's a philosophical weight to this moment. In a world without science, without germ theory, without understanding of disease, people need explanations. Plague isn't random, it's divine punishment. Crop failure isn't weather, it's witchcraft. Every tragedy must have a moral cause, and if God allows suffering, then Satan must be active. Logic becomes a trap, reason becomes heresy. Outside, you can hear the bells tolling again. Someone has died. The first plague death was reported last week in the Canongate. The authorities tried to suppress the news. It didn't work. Fear spreads faster than disease. The air feels different now, heavier. You've walked down the Royal Mile to the Canongate, the lower town where the poorer families live in crumbling tenements and workshops. The streets are narrower here, darker, choked with refuse. You pass a house with a red cross painted on the door, the plague mark. Inside, a family is quarantined, locked in by order of the magistrates, forbidden to leave even if they're healthy. A watchman sits outside, paid a few shillings to ensure no one escapes. He looks bored, he'll be dead within a month. The smell is worse here. Sewage, rot, something sweetly foul that you recognize from the tollbooth, the smell of infection. Plague doesn't announce itself with drama. It starts quietly, a fever, a headache, swelling in the neck and groin, then the black bruising, the delirium, the hemorrhaging. Death comes in 3 to 5 days. There's no cure, there's no treatment, there's only isolation and prayer. You notice fewer people on the streets now. Those who remain move quickly, clutching posies of herbs, lavender, rue, wormwood, meant to ward off the bad air that carries plague. It doesn't work. The plague travels on fleas, on rats, on the backs of soldiers returning from war. No one knows this. They blame the air, they blame the witches. A minister walks past, accompanied by 2 men carrying a woman in chains. Her trial was this morning. Her execution is tonight. She's accused of summoning the plague through sorcery. She's 60 years old, widowed, and owns a small plot of land that her accuser wants. None of this will be mentioned at the burning. You're now at the Grass Market, an open square at the base of Castle Rock where markets are held, executions are carried out, and Edinburgh's worst nightmares are made public. The evening sky is bruised with smoke. A wooden pyre has been erected in the center of the square. The crowd has gathered, hundreds of them, packed tight, silent except for the murmur of prayers. You can see the woman from the tollbooth now, tied to the stake. Her face is blank. She's been awake for 3 days, questioned until she confessed to flying on a broomstick, poisoning wells, and dancing with the devil at midnight. None of it is true, all of it is on record. A minister reads the sentence aloud. The words are formal, detached, bureaucratic. This isn't barbarism, it's law. The Scottish Witchcraft Act of 1563 made witchcraft a capital crime. The Privy Council has issued hundreds of commissions. Between 1644 and 1650, Scotland will execute more witches per capita than anywhere else in Europe. Edinburgh will burn at least 30 women in 1645 alone. The torch is lit, the fire catches, the crowd watches in silence. Some cross themselves, some pray, some look away. You smell burning wood, then burning cloth, then something worse. It's over in minutes. As the crowd disperses, you hear a woman cough, deep, rattling, familiar. Someone else backs away from her. Fear has a new target now. The plague is here. The fires will continue. Scapegoats are infinite when the real enemy is invisible. If you're finding yourself pulled into this world, consider subscribing. There are many more days like this one waiting. How do we know this? Edinburgh's Burgh records from 1645 survive in the city archives, documenting plague deaths, quarantine measures, and the economic collapse that followed. The Privy Council records detailed witch trials, names, charges, confessions extracted under torture, execution dates. We know that at least 300 women were tried for witchcraft in Scotland in 1644-1645, with the majority convicted and executed. Historians estimate Edinburgh's population dropped from around 30,000 to 22,000 between 1645 and 1647, a combination of plague deaths and refugees fleeing the city. Kirk Session minutes from St. Giles and other Edinburgh churches record sermons, disciplinary cases, and the theological justification for witch hunts. The Survey of Scottish Witchcraft Database, compiled by scholars at the University of Edinburgh, catalogues over 4,000 accused witches between 1563 and 1736, with 1645 being one of the deadliest years. Trial records show the types of accusations: cursing livestock, causing illness, midwifery gone wrong, everyday misfortunes reframed as diabolical conspiracy. Archaeological evidence from mass graves near Greyfriars Kirkyard reveals plague burials, bodies stacked without ceremony, buried in lime to slow decomposition. Medical historians studying these remains have identified Yersinia pestis, the bacterium that causes bubonic plague, confirming the disease's presence in Edinburgh during this period. The gaps are real. We can't know what the woman at the stake was thinking in her final moments. We can't know if the crowds believed the charges or if they simply needed someone to blame. We can't know how many innocent people died because fear demanded a villain. Within 2 years, the plague burned itself out. The witch hunts continued sporadically until 1736 when the Witchcraft Act was finally repealed. Edinburgh rebuilt. The old town tenements still stand, dark and narrow, haunted by the memory of a year when disease and delusion killed side by side. The people of 1645 couldn't have known that germs, not witches, spread plague. They couldn't have known that their fear was more contagious than any disease. They did what their world demanded. They found enemies, they eliminated threats, they survived. Neither did they, neither do we.